Good afternoon, everyone. Devastating storms tore across Minneapolis-St. Paul last night, leaving residents to clean up damage both inside and outside their homes. As of 11 a.m., Xcel Energy is still reporting more than 30,000 customers are without power. There were many reports of flooding and fires, and that severe weather is expected here in the valley. Hutch, what's the latest?
Well, I'll tell you what, it is a first alert weather day. We've been talking about it throughout the week, and we do have all threats of severe weather. So what they saw in the Twin Cities last night has shifted into our area. As we take a look at the full screen here, you can get a better picture in red. That is a moderate risk. And if you take a look at the scales here, we're almost at the top. And sometimes in a whole summer, they don't ever issue a high risk. So we are in a moderate risk here from Fargo. Point south. This does include Lakes Country, northeast South Dakota. Storms are expected to fire in South Dakota, move northward. A strong tornado could be in the early onset this evening. And those could race very quickly toward the North Dakota border. So we're keeping our eyes on that risk. Gusty straight line winds will be the primary threat. They could exceed 70 miles per hour. That means a mobile home doesn't withstand those. So seek shelter, know where you can go now to stay safe. Hail over 2 inches in diameter will be possible in the orange and red areas. As the storms work their way northward later tonight, hail an inch or a little greater with still gusty straight line winds in excess of 60 miles per hour will be possible. All of our counties have a risk of severe weather tonight, but the greatest risk along the North Dakota, South Dakota, west central Minnesota area. A few thunderstorms near Jamestown forming. Those are non-severe, not the main event. We had severe thunderstorms now out in the Brainerd Lakes area. Those are moving off to the east. We're in the middle now. Greatest risk of tornadoes near the South Dakota border and the areas you see yellow. Could be a strong or violent long-lived tornado. We'll keep you posted there. Where you see the hatched areas, we have a significant risk for wind in excess of 70 miles per hour. That's many of our southern counties and Lakes Country. And batten down the hatches and the trampolines. Hail threat mainly in the Southern Valley for the large hail. Speaking of which, let's leave you with this. A couple of tips. Stay informed, the number one rule. Number two, if you're in a home, get to the basement and interior room, staying away from windows. Also, if you happen to be in a mobile home, an RV, or a camper, find a sturdier structure to seek shelter in. Even with gusty straight line winds, sometimes mobile homes succumb to winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. An apartment or office, just get to that interior room on the lowest floor possible. Always cover your head and have that cell phone handy. Stacy, that's a look at what we have. We'll have hour-by-hour details on the progression of storms as we're anticipating right now here in a moment.
All right, some great advice there. Thanks, Hutch. The National Weather Service also recommends creating a safety kit using a backpack or storage tub. They say you should include bottled water and food, a flashlight, first aid supplies, and a sleeping bag or a warm blanket. They also say to keep hygiene supplies and anything you need for your pet or children nearby. The National Weather Service recommends discussing with your family where you should meet in the event of severe weather, like a basement or a shelter. You can find all this information and much more on our VNL weather app. Hutch and the team will be posting updates and videos all throughout tonight's weather event. You'll receive push alerts and warnings as the storm moves into your area. You can download it for free right in your app store. School officials in Roseau say an alleged school threat is not credible. District officials say late last night they were made aware of a threat one student made to another student. Parents were notified about that possible threat. The district superintendent says after an investigation, the threat was deemed not credible. Classes continued as usual this morning. School officials wouldn't comment on any action taken against that student. A lightning strike is believed to be the cause of a house fire in Detroit Lakes that happened last night as severe weather moved through the area. Other outlets are reporting it happened along Hickory Lane on the southeast side of the lake. It's reported that no one was home at the time and fire crews are still determining damages. Nearly 30 people are without a place to stay tonight after a massive fire broke out in this South Fargo apartment complex. Take a look at the flames coming from that third floor attic. This was around 11 last night just off University Drive south of downtown Fargo. Everybody made it out safely and fire crews were able to rescue all pets. They say the 12-unit complex will need extensive repairs before tenants can move back in. The Red Cross is working with those who are displaced, and tonight at 6, we'll hear from a few of the residents about their experience and what they'll do next. One person is dead and 3 others are hurt in a storm-related crash in southern Minnesota. State Patrol says a driver had stopped on Interstate 90 near Worthington because of a power line on the highway and was hit by a semi coming from behind him. One passenger, a meteorologist from Mexico who was tweeting about the storm, was killed. Another passenger is in critical condition and 2 others have less serious injuries. The semi-driver wasn't hurt. Troopers say the driver of a 3rd car was hurt when he then drove over the live power lines. A family in Montrose, Minnesota has been through the unimaginable. Just weeks ago, they were fleeing for their lives, trying to get out of Ukraine and away from the war to come stay with family here. They share their story of escape with Aaron Hassanzadeh, who shows us what it's like to start over in Minnesota.
Literally, I took the shirt off my back, some documents, and ran away.
At 80 years old, Valentina Bardash is starting over.
We escaped in great fear. The troops bombed everything. Everything was destroyed. This is the section of it.
As Alina Kohan shows us the life she had and how quickly it was torn to shreds.
This is where they shot at the house.
You realize even if the war ended tomorrow, there'd be practically nothing to go back to.
Your heart is still there.
Ваше сердце еще там. Yes. Of course, I want to go home. I really want to go home.
After weeks in Mariupol sheltering with 100 others without heat, running water, or electricity, they went for it.
We knew we're going to die either here or we're going to die in the road escaping.
Did you think,
Вы думали?
I'm not going to be back here for a long time?
Yeah.
They drove west until their car broke down, then hitched a ride to the Moldovan border, Moldova to Romania to Italy to Madrid, then Mexico City, and eventually Tijuana, where they walked across the border into San Diego seeking asylum, then on to Minnesota. All of this with 2 children in tow. And after all that, the work begins.
They need to apply for what's called the temporary protection status.
Immigration attorney Nadia Roifi is helping them do that.
That's weeks or months?
Months. In immigration world, months is quick.
Nadia and her colleagues set up this free legal clinic at a church, basically to just get paperwork going so that people can get their lives up and running here in Minnesota.
They're eager to work.
Natella Jalali was a dentist, her daughter a surgeon.
I understand that I may have to study again. And I don't know if it's possible in my age.
But until they get on their feet,
Whoever dropped off the vegetables, thank you. We don't know who you are, but we're so grateful.
others will have their back.
We were the lucky ones.
In Coon Rapids, Aaron Hassanzadeh, WCCO 4 News.
Nadia is aware of roughly 300 to 500 people in Minnesota who need this kind of assistance. She says she'll keep hosting those free legal clinics as long as they're needed. A swift-moving wildfire that broke out yesterday afternoon has now destroyed at least 20 homes in the upscale Orange County coastal neighborhood of Laguna Niguel and forced hundreds to evacuate. Fire officials say the fire has now burned 200 acres and they're still working to determine the point of origin.
It started at the bottom of the drainage. It started running up canyon and up slope. Those are 2 devastating factors, and you throw some wind on it. That's what made the devastation.
They say the flames spread quickly, tearing through thick brush on the hillsides, aided by ocean winds that sparked spot fires ahead of the main blaze. Then the fire pushed its way uphill toward multi-million-dollar estates. Evacuations for residents remain in place while firefighters are working to contain the inferno. President Biden has ordered flags to be flown at half-staff today as the White House says the U.S. has now lost 1 million lives to COVID. President Biden marked the somber milestone with a pre-recorded video message.
We all must do more. We must honor those we have lost by doing everything we can to prevent as many deaths as possible.
Those remarks kicked off the 2nd annual virtual COVID summit with world leaders as the White House is urging Congress to pass up to $10 billion in COVID funding, while the administration's health experts are warning about a potential surge this fall and winter. Negotiations over the funding have stalled. Meanwhile, nurses from all across the country who have spent the past 2 years on the front lines of this battle are marching on Washington, D.C. today, calling for higher wages and safer working conditions. The Senate confirmed Jerome Powell today for a second 4-year term as Federal Reserve Chair, giving bipartisan backing to Powell's high-stakes efforts to curb the highest inflation in 4 decades. The 80-19 vote reflected broad support in Congress. Powell now faces a difficult and risky task in trying to quell inflation without weakening the economy so much as to cause a recession.